Hi, and welcome back to Nancy Boys. I'm Dan. This is Chris. Sorry, Chris. And we're here today very, very excited to be reviewing The Substance. I think it's just worth saying from the offset, we absolutely loved this film. So there's no real mystery about how we're going to rate it. My view actually is that we don't want to speak too much because there's so much we could go into with this film. There might be some sort of spoiler elements towards the end, see how we go. But yeah, before we kind of crack on, I don't think I've left the cinema this kind of giddy in a long time. Yeah, we both absolutely loved it. I mean, speaking for you, but what were your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, as Dan said, like it was just I've not left the cinema with that kind of reaction for a very long time from any film. So yeah, amazing.
Great. So as per standard, we'll do a quick synopsis of the film and then we'll kind of dive into exactly what we did love about it. So Elizabeth Sparkle, renowned for an aerobics show, faces a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss fires her. Amid her distress, a laboratory offers her a substance which promises to transfer her into an enhanced version of herself. And actually, yeah, I think you get that from the trailer to a certain extent, but this film is just so much more than that synopsis, and it went to places that I've never seen before in cinema. And
you can definitely say that.
Yeah. First things first, I just want to say thank you to Mubi, who had us along to a very exclusive screening of the film last night over at Battersea Power Station, which was great. The kind of lobby area was decked out in lots of decorations associated with the film. We had someone there with a spinal column sewn up and really cool cocktails and things like that. So that was a really fun way of kind of seeing the film. But I feel like I've spoken a lot. Chris, what did you like about The Substance?
I thought it was a great reflection on a lot of the things that we already talk about with cinema and the film industry and celeb culture, with a kind of a self-inflection on looking at how particularly women perceive themselves.
Yeah, I think all of that. What I liked about it was I think there's been a trend for horror in the last few years to be really quite heavy-handed on some of the messaging. So a lot of horror films, even like slasher films like the Halloween trilogy, will talk about trauma as this big lofty thing around the themes of it. I thought this film tackled themes really effectively, but without hitting us over the head with it, and actually doing it in a really fun way, which was more like show don't tell, which I really appreciated. So the message of the film felt quite authentic. You really felt for the character.
Yeah. It kind of took you along on the journey with them. You felt it as you're going through it yourself. You kind of start thinking about how you self-critique yourself and how you see your own body and see your own image in front of people. It kind of really puts you through the paces as Demi's character does.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's very bombastic. Like, it's very stylized. It's kind of loud, punchy. I kind of felt like it had almost like a visual novel feel to it, and I'm kind of hoping that in the future someone's going to release an illustrated book of this film, because I think it would work so well in that medium. What I thought was, I think when I first saw the trailer, I thought, well, I love the concept. I can't quite envision how they're going to demonstrate how this thing actually manifests itself. This substance that she produces a more youthful version of herself.
It's quite like a unique spin on this kind of story of what would you do if you had a younger self, or what would you do if you could live longer. I think we see it with Death Becomes Her, where they take the potion and they're rejuvenated and they have this kind of eternal youth forevermore. But in this sense, it's a very different. I mean, without too many spoilers, you have two separate parts of yourself. It's very separate, and the whole message of the film is staying true to yourself and remaining as one person, even though you have this different outer appearance. I thought that was quite clever and quite simple, to be honest.
Yeah, and it worked, I think, for me, because it was so fantastical, and it's not necessarily a film that's that rooted in reality, but
absolutely not.
It embraces it. And I'm a bit of a pedant. I do quite like films that are realistic, and I get a little bit upset if that logic is broken, because I'm kind of like, oh, it's lost me. There was something about this film that didn't need so much internal logic. It was more about, I don't know, it just never felt like that was important, which was so nice to be able to not care.
I think it did quite well as a film to allow you to not care. I think, as you said, I also have a thing where if there's not a lot of logical sense in it, you lose me quite early on. This, even though there are moments where you think that wouldn't normally happen, Yeah, that can be said about a
Not
lot of parts of the
not
film.
much of it,
Yeah, but it kind of you are allowed to abandon that and just go along with this wild ride that this film is. And I didn't find that bothered me at all. In fact, I quite enjoyed going along with it. It was quite liberating.
But it was one of those films, I think me and Chris were sat next to us and just kept looking over at each other every few minutes, like in disbelief. I think I spent probably the last hour of this 2.5 hour film, not thinking about how long it was, and two, like with my hand just clasped over my mouth for most of it, or like nervous laughter. It was just such a fun sensory experience. It's almost like an art exhibition you have to go and put yourself through, like a kind of a weird way of explaining it, but
yeah, it's like performance art almost.
Yeah.
And you are part of the performance by watching this film.
Yeah, it was, I just thought it was so well done. I cannot wait for Coralie Fargeat, who was the director, to do more. She actually directed Revenge. I think this is her second feature film, second film in like 7 years, so she's kind of one of those directors that chooses her work carefully, which I really appreciate. It makes it very exciting to think what she could do next. And there's this whole French extremity cinema where French horror generally has a reputation as being the most extreme and the most gory, the most violent. I've seen a lot of French horror films which are like bracingly violent, and that kind of movement's died out a little bit in the last few years. This fully brings it back, because it's actually filmed in Paris, even though it's filmed in LA. So great job by her. We loved Demi, didn't we? So
absolutely obsessed. It is just everything you wanted. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word cunty, but it was super cunty, super campy. It was just everything you want from like even though it wasn't a queer horror film, it really appealed to a queer audience, I feel like, because of the kind of popness of it. Everything was just so bright and fantastical and yeah, campy. It was great.
Oh yeah, the gays will love this.
Yeah, like, they'll eat it up.
yeah. I see Halloween costumes for days, but I mean, on that, I think this is for me a modern classic. I think this is one of those films that I just want to go and make other people watch it.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's like I had this weird reaction with Saltburn, actually, where I quite enjoyed the kind of the perversion of watching that with people. Not quite the same. I did really enjoy Saltburn, but I think this is like next level. But yeah, I just think it was phenomenal.
A league of its own. Yeah, I don't think I can compare this to any other
yeah
horror film or film out there in recent history.
Yeah. All I would say is I think if you get a chance, please see it in cinemas, and it's kind of why we're not trying to give too much away, because I almost think even if I'd watched my review, I'd probably be thinking I might wait until I've seen it, because I think we went in having seen the trailer, I roughly knew the plot, knowing nothing else, I think made it so much more magical. And it's just one of those films that flies by. I mean, I'll be right in saying Chris does not like long films.
Nope. But
this is a long film.
This to me, I didn't notice how long it was. I mean, we went into it saying, it's going to be 2.5 hours long. From someone that hates long films, I had no problem with this film. It kept you captivated from start to finish. There was no like lull in the middle. It carried you all the way through without complaint.
Yeah. So do you want to talk spoilers? Is there anything that we want to warn people not to kind of engage with? I mean, we're not going to give away major plot points, but I think there might just be things. So if you want to skip to the last kind of minute, do that now.
Yeah.
Or we just cover things off.
There was one particular scene which, without giving too much away, as we said before, this film has you laughing nervously throughout the whole thing. But in one particular scene, that laughter very quickly changes to sadness. It's you're watching this very violent, very graphic scene take place, and you're anxiously watching it and nervously laughing, and then it suddenly descends into something quite tragic, really, watching this person tear apart what's really themselves, based on the fact that the way they perceive themselves and the way they expect the public to see them. It was quite a poignant scene, and I didn't expect to get that side of emotion coming out from watching a film as gory as this.
No, and I think for a film that's so kind of bombastic and loud and quite visual, I experienced actually quite a lot of emotions, and I think it's probably no coincidence that me and Chris both felt exhausted today. I think I really had trouble waking up and getting out of bed this morning, because I think the actual experience of watching the film was quite draining, and I mean that very positively. Like it was just a lot. I think we both came out of the cinema. Chris was reading his Kindle on the bus home. We were both having a bit of a timeout.
It was like an adrenaline rush you get at a roller coaster.
Oh,
you
for 2.5 hours.
Your body aches afterwards, and you feel a bit low, and it's because you've been through so much physically and emotionally. This film definitely did that, and by physical I mean my heart was pounding through a lot of this, so it was a very physical experience watching this film.
And it was like sadness, joy, laughter, pity. Like, again, Demi Moore's character, because it had this like storybook quality, it almost didn't feel like a real thing. But the fact that I still really empathized with Elizabeth's character and really cared for her and was just willing her to stop what she was doing, I just think is a testament to Demi Moore as well. And I think we've spoken already in this video, but she's just, to come back after 15 years away from film, to come out with that film, I just, hats off to her. I don't know, like, I like Demi Moore, but she's never really been on my radar as like one of my favourite actresses, but I now feel like I need to go and watch everything she's ever been in.
Me too.
It was so good.
Yeah.
So good. For me, I've done quite a few reviews this year. This is absolutely, in fact, maybe my only 10 I've ever given in my whole channel's history. I think even Pearl only gave a 9. I loved that. So, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. How about you?
10 out of 10 for me as well. It was everything I want to see in a horror film and more. Things I didn't expect I wanted to see in a horror film as well. It just kind of crossed everything that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I think going into it, I was expecting some kind of Death Becomes Her parallel, and it crossed that with the violence and the goriness and the redness of Kill Bill, and put a load of LSD on top, and you've got this film. Amazing.
Just a total riot. Just such fun, but also so much more than just fun. It actually had so much to say. And I would like to hope that it was a bit of a force for good, that maybe there are, particularly older women watching it being like, you know what, I look great. And like, this film actually has a really positive message, weirdly enough, which you may find a while to find if you watch it. But yeah, it was great. Just let us know your thoughts, what kind of bits you liked, anything you didn't, because it's good to really debate that. Haven't asked you to do this for a while, but please like and subscribe because it does help. I have nearly 700 followers now, and I'm just kind of keen to keep that going. And I'm on Nancy Boys UK at Instagram. It's just a very quick shout out to Phil and the Boys on Film team. They invited us along to the screen last night and managed to get us in. So we will be doing a lot more collaborations with Phil and his team going forward. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been Dan
and Chris,
and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.